Yes. Okay, there we are. That's what it is. I'm your man right here, Kurt Nice. And I haven't been on here in a long time. And it's been hard not to be on here talking to y'all. But it's actually been a little bit harder to actually get on here every day and make sense of all the things going on. And at the same time present it in like a show format. So I've pretty much been giving up on trying to present shows to y'all people. This is not something that see, now I'm fucking up because I'm trying to monitor this shit, but it's not working out too good. But anyway, I actually wanted to do some tests because that's actually what I'll always be doing. I'm always actually in the so-called lab experimenting and figuring things out and gaining more knowledge, trying to understand things on a deeper level by studying them in depth. So just to give you an idea, over the last year, I'm looking over now at a pile of about 15 books, textbooks that I've pretty much read in the last year, just dealing with business, internet marketing, small businesses, business law, accounting, business marketing, business management, all these things to understand more of what it means to run a business. And that's because I've had, personal businesses for the past like 20 years, since I first started doing wedding videos and talent show videos back in like 89. All right. But which is more than 20 years, but having like, in between there working for regular corporations, insurance and all different types of stuff like that, having a business doesn't mean you really know anything about business. Anybody that knows me knows that I'm more of an artist than a businessman. Okay. Anybody that knows me personally. Okay. But I've always had businesses. I've had stores and, video production businesses and graphic design companies, or any number of little promotional type of services that I've done for people too. Right. But I never actually took any business courses though. I was just relaying the information and stuff that I learned and putting to work the services that I knew how to provide because of the skill set that I had, like as a graphic designer or whatever, editor, whatever. But now I'm seeing that because of this latest trek in hip hop, the main thing that I really realized a couple of years ago, like 2 years ago, that we really needed to get into was business. Because I had gone through the whole gambit of true school emotions with hip hop before. All right, we studied it, and throughout the 90s, we just were trying to express and trying to prove that hip hop was a true culture. But now that's been proven. All right. So then from there, the more intellectuals in hip hop delved into the spiritual realm and the character development aspect of hip hop. Now that's not nothing that was on the surface at all. Most people didn't really know that conversation was going on. They just saw cats out there rapping and making money and stuff. But behind the scenes, there was a big movement since '96, since KRS-One established the Temple of Hip Hop. Bam, a lot of people behind the scenes have been trying to go beyond establishing hip hop as a culture and make it something much more significant. And what that led to was the idea of spirituality. Should hip hop be a religion? Almost. That question came up, and it didn't really get fully resolved. And in the minds of most people, it's not even resolved, but it has been resolved pretty much. I'm here to tell you. um, it got pretty much resolved in the minds of the true school thinking people in hip hop that spirituality and hip hop will combine, but not right now. Now is not actually the time. And a lot of people might try to go back and forth with this. Can hip hop be religion? And there's so many ways we could prove yes, it should be justifiable as a religion, all that stuff. Just look at, for instance, Mormonism, and if people consider that a legitimate religion, which was completely made up by a con man dude named Joseph Smith back in the late 1800s or the mid 1800s, all right? If that's legitimate, and that can spawn a culture of, hundreds of thousands of people in this country, and even some throughout the world that live as Mormons and follow the principles that were set down and created by Joseph Smith and others, including Mitt Romney's great-great-grandfather, Parley Pratt, right? His great-great-grandfather sat down and conspired with Joseph Smith and others to create probably about 5 to 7 people, but mostly 1 or 2, sat down to create a way of thinking and a way of being that people call religion, and get tax-free buildings built in Utah for it. You know what I mean? So if that's viable, is not hip-hop a cultural belief system of many hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions of people, all across this world? Do they deserve to enjoy some of the benefits in society that, say, a religious sect like Mormonism gets? That's all. We've debated that behind the scenes, and the answer really is yes, but not right now. Okay, not right now. And we can get into that some other time, and it's hard for me to even say that because it's hard for me to get back to some of these topics, which is why I really came on here today, because I just wanted to show you the transitions and stuff that are actually going on, and the reason why I don't really come on here like that, like I should. All right, or like some may think I should, but what I've kind of realized is, over this transition from understanding hip-hop at its core as a spiritual thing, and realizing that no, there's no way we can really do that now, right? And I'll talk about that some other time, but we can't really do hip-hop as a religion right now. So what has really been going on? Well, what's really been going on in the physical and the regular, everyday, non-true school forms of hip-hop is the sense of entrepreneurialism. All right, when most people refer to 5 elements, MCing, DJing, breaking, and graffiti, right? Then number 5 being knowledge, because that's what BAM says, okay? But KRS, puts it as 9 elements, right? Because you got to kind of, I go along with the 9 elements, to be honest with you. 5 elements does make sense in certain realms, and I understand that too, right? But if you really think about the cultural influence of hip-hop, yes, there's MCing, DJing, b-boying, and graffiti. But then also, what about beatboxing? That was part of it. And beatboxing has really become, in a lot of ways, producing too. All right, DJing is sort of producing, but at the same time, DJing does get into the aspect of not just making records, but rocking a party, which producing is not necessarily a part all the time. But the creation of beats out of nowhere is a part of beatboxing though too. All right, so production kind of goes in on that level as well. But beyond that, then you got like some of the street elements, which of course includes knowledge, but also fashion, language, and entrepreneurialism. And see, that's the last element of the 9 that's talked about, is entrepreneurialism, right? And when you look at the last age of hip-hop, we're technically in the so-called information age right now. even though our feet are in the information age, a lot of our minds are still in the platinum age, or the golden era, the era during the 90s when everybody was making money. All right, where the sky was the limit and hip hop grew in significance financially and success wise. Right. So that whole business aspect has been going on for some time in the mindset of the regular non-true school hip hop artisan. Right. And you got to say that that's pretty much true, because the so-called conscious dudes, yeah, they've been making a little bit of bread, but they've been concentrating on other things, which is why they're not making as much bread as the other people. Right. And that might sound a little bit confusing, but let me just get to the point. There's so many things that have been going on in hip hop and in life in general that are not talked about by the average hip hopper. Things that affect their lives, that I looked at this transition in my own personal life and was observing and being at the epicenter of the hip hop spiritual movement with KRS-One, and then understanding this whole element of business, and that people were talking a lot about money but not really talking about business at all. So when we go to schools and we used to go to different lectures and participate in the educational aspects of hip hop, people weren't, you'll say, oh, who's a businessman in hip hop? People say Jay-Z. Oh, yeah, you hear Jay-Z talking about money and the things that money buys, but do you really ever hear him talking about business? You don't really hear him talking about anything that is helping to make you understand the business world. Just like when we go back to the regular, secular ideas of life. Nobody's talking about politics in hip hop no more. Nobody's talking about the law in hip hop. Nobody's talking about spirituality, or that's the easy part to talk about. Spirituality, what do you love and what do you desire, what's your passion, all that stuff. That's even the easy part, but people don't even talk about that. All right. Not to mention the fact they don't even talk about, of course, things like, stop and frisk and marijuana becoming legal in Colorado and in Washington. Like, nobody's talking about the real everyday politics. We just had the biggest election of our lifetimes, of most people's lifetimes. Did any one of these rappers say anything of significance about the election of 2012? Did anybody talk about how the world didn't end in 2012? Oh, remember all the drama leading up to, the world's, the world's going to end in Revelations and, the Mayan prophecy and all that. None of that happened the way people talked about for so long and desired for it to happen. None of that happened. We got through that so-called stage of mental darkness that a lot of people are still in because they're holding on to the past. Clutching it like a wino clutching his last little bit of ripple in the bottom of a button. I know y'all haven't heard no references to winos and ripple, but I was thinking about Sanford and Son the other day. But anyway, nobody's talking about the real things of significance. All right, so in trying to understand and study and bring the most truth out from my perspective, I, just went back into full study and experiment mode. All right. And so I've done a few experiments on here. All right. One was talking about the Iggy Azalea thing. Right. I could talk about something regular. Matter of fact, even the Trayvon Martin thing. All right. Those discussions were more experimental. Then, of course, the parts from the book, why call me a hip hopper and stuff like that. Those are sort of experiments to see what people listen to. Now, by far, Iggy Azalea killed it. You're saying, the moment I put that up, I got an immediate 3,000 hits on it. All right. But when you talk of something of any type of significance or relevance that's not being talked about in the mainstream, bam, zero. You know what I mean? You're not going to get